Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Thank Furlough It's Friday once again. And we thought we'd catch you this afternoon before you all nip out to the pub tomorrow. I gather the pints are going to be flowing again tomorrow and the gin and tonic, so be careful when you go out there. And I am, as ever, joined by my flexible furlough friend, the inimitable Jacquie Mount. Hi, Jacquie.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon again.
And you've got some stuff to show us on screen today.
I have today, yes, for a change.
Great. Well, I'll leave it straight to you. Let's get started.
Okay, a couple of obvious housekeeping messages. We're now into July, so we're into flexible furloughing. And I'm going to do a talk about that in a few moments. But before I do that, I was just looking at what came out on the updates from HMRC this morning. They're certainly working well. They're able to get their stuff out a bit earlier now. So again, we've got an update. And there is, the only update I've got for you this week really is on the SAYS scheme. They have amended the eligibility criteria for that. And this is going back to cover the first period as well. And it's aimed basically at people who have been on statutory leave. So maternity leave, paternity leave, adoption leave. If your income has been affected because you've been on leave for maybe most of, say, the year 17-18, and your income was grossly reduced because of that, they are now averaging over the period of time that you were working rather than the period that you were on parental leave. So that means that the average income may be higher, and it's in the SAYS guidance. So if you or anyone you know has been involved in that situation, then have a look at the guidance. It does tell you what it's all about. Now, it's not available they say, please don't ring us yet. We're still trying to get it all sorted and worked out. But I think they are actually changing the figures that they're averaging on. So that might help some people. There's also an update in there about any directors who have a loan charge. Now, if you're not involved with loan charges and directors, then be grateful, because that's proving to be a bit difficult at the moment to work out these loan charges. Disguised remuneration, it's also called. It's where directors are taking a loan out from the business rather than taking a salary or dividends and then paying tax on them and never actually paying the loan back and the loan being written off. You're now having to pay tax on that. So there's something about there on that. There's also some more information on anyone who's been a military reservist. Now, we mentioned that last week as far as CJRS and flexible furloughing is concerned. And they're also now looking at the averaging relief. If you have somebody like a farmer or an artist who pays their tax based on the averaging over, say, 3 years, and they're now looking at taking actual figures rather than average figures. So that might make a change. And the last one that's mentioned in there is if you have a client who is a non-resident or pays tax on the remittance basis, they may possibly be eligible. Certain things have changed, so there may be some changes to that. So that's really the only update I've got. So we'll have a look at flexible furlough. Flexible furlough started on Wednesday. Just some basic reminders that you had to completely close down your original furlough scheme on the 30th of June and restart your figures and calculations from the 1st of July. Until the 30th of June, you could claim for any period across from start date A to finish date B, and as long as they didn't overlap, that was fine. But from now on, you can only claim for a period from the 1st of the month to the last day of the month. Now, you don't have to claim once, you can claim it weekly, but you have to stop a claim on the last day of the month. So you might end up, if you're doing weekly claims, actually claiming for something like four and a bit weeks, 4 weeks and up to 6 days you can claim. So be careful with the dates and be careful with when you're claiming, and it's all to do with your pay periods and your pay dates. So that's the first thing. Second thing to remind you is that the last date for claiming the full-time furlough up to the 30th of June is the 31st of July. So if you haven't got your claims in to the end of June by the 31st of July, you'll lose the claim. and the claims are now available to be claimed under flexible. You could start that claim on the 1st of July. So if you're claiming in advance, I think the 14 days advance still works, still carries through, but you need to watch out for your date. So it can get a little bit complex. And the only other date to remind you about is the first SAYS payment claim has to be claimed by the 13th of July, which is what, 10 days time. So we've had lots of discussions about whether our members are going to claim or not, or whether you're not claiming for, but talking our clients through claiming their own SAYS grants. The deadline for the first claim is the 13th of July. And then you can open, the second claim opens on the 1st of August. So, right. Lots of queries this week about flexible furloughing, and I've had one member rang me the other day, and I think she's on the line actually this afternoon, and I've just sent her some answers. But we had an interesting, almost like a conundrum came up this week on actually working out how much you're going to pay people on a daily or an hourly rate for when they're working. And this particular member is almost having an argument with her client about what's going to be paid. And it worked out that the way that the client wants to pay is based on 31 days to calculate a daily rate, but then they're only going to pay them for the dates they work, and the employee is actually being underpaid. So what I want to do is I want to go through a flexible furlough calculation with you this afternoon. And that's actually based on what is in the HMRC calculation. I want to show you how it works. So if you just bear with me, I want to share my screen, which is this one. Share screen. Okay, so let's, before I come to, there's a couple of questions coming in, but I'll come back to those in a minute. So hopefully people can see that. Let's have a look at an example. I've used a basic salary, a monthly fixed salary of £2,500. And I'm basing this on the month of July, in which there are 31 days, obviously. But the way that the HMRC calculator works is that you look at the number of hours that you would normally work in a month. So you're going to have to do this calculation. If you want to do the HMRC calculator, you're going to have to calculate this differently for each month. During the month of July, if you assume that you're working from Monday to Friday, from the 1st to the 31st, there are 23 working days in July. And on a basis of 7.5 hours per day, and I'm actually going to put this in an article for the newsletter next week, so don't worry about frantically trying to write this down, because I will get this out to you next week. The total number of hours that employee will be expected to work is 172.5 hours. That's this one here. Assuming that you bring them back flexibly to work, say, 12 days at 7.5 hours, that means that they're actually working for you for 90 hours, which leaves, simple calculation, 82.5 hours for which they are furloughed. Now, this is where our member and her client have had this situation. What the client has done is he's taken the 2,500, divided it by 31 to get a daily rate, which in this case is £80.64, and then multiplied that by the number of days they're actually working, but that ignores the weekend. So this particular client is being underpaid. So this is the justification as to how this works. What you do is you say, okay, we're going to work for 90 hours and furlough for 82.5 hours based on that average monthly salary. Now, if you think back to the early days when we worked out the average monthly salary for flexible working, it's the same figure. So use the figure that you've worked if you want to do it that way. If you've got flexible people and you're not sure, you can use that figure to base it on. But this is assuming that we have a fixed salary. So your worked hours, to work out the salary that you're going to pay them for the hours they work, it's 90 divided by 172.5 times the 2,500. So that's the percentage of the salary that they're going to work, which comes out to 130,435. You then look at the hours that you furloughed them for, which is 82.5. And if you do exactly the same calculation, but you split your monthly salary down for the 82.5 hours, you will get the total pay that they would normally earn, but the furloughed hours. And if you add these two figures here together, it brings you back to the full monthly contracted salary of £2,500. Okay, so that's the justification for what you're going to pay them for the worked hours. Now, the furloughed pay is going to be 80% of that furloughed hours. So that's the full furlough if you're going to update that, but you will pay them or claim back £956.52. Now, if you put these figures through the calculator on HMRC, that's the figure that you will get for furloughed salary. And that's what you can claim back for July and August. Obviously, in September, we're looking at a different percentage. So the total amount that you're actually going to pay your employee is going to be what you're paying them for the worked hours plus their furloughed pay. So this is what they're going to be paid at the end of the month. And that's what you put through your payroll. And it's the £956.52 that you're going to claim back from HMRC at the 80%. Now, NICS, exactly the same percentage calculation works. What you do is you have to look at apportioning the primary threshold. So the amount of primary threshold for the month is £732. So if you take the furloughed amount of that, which is the 82.5 divided by 172, the NICs that you get in that free bit under the primary threshold comes out to be £350.09. So what you then do is you subtract that from the 956, work out 13.8%, and if you're still with me, well done. Simples, isn't it? Very simples. And that gives you £83.62 NICs that you can reclaim. Now, obviously, when you put your amount through your payroll, you're going to get the full NICs. This is working out how to calculate the amount of NICs that for this month only you can claim. And then exactly the same calculation happens for the pension, but this is based on the lower earnings limit of £520. It's the same calculation, and you multiply it by 3%. So on this salary of £2,500, working for 12 days and being furloughed for the remainder, that's how the calculation works out. Now, as I said, what I'm going to do is we've got a newsletter going out next week. I'm going to put all of this in a technical article for the newsletter with some examples, get it up there for you next week so that you should be able to work through it. But the HMRC calculator works. I haven't worked it through yet for variable hours, but that's how the whole thing works. So if the member's on, you've got those figures. I've sent them by email today. So, okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen to get that off your screen.
I think we've got some questions coming in already.
Questions coming in, right? Okay.
Somewhere. Let me have a look. Oh, right.
Faye, hi Faye. Using the HMRC calculation tables for June, July split is fab. That's what I've done just now. So that's good. It works really, really well. I saw the word TUPE for the first time this month. An employee came across as a change in contract and can remain on furlough from a previous employer. Also, may I ask, what are we doing with sole directors and flexi furlough? Once they do income generation, do we take them off of furlough? No. The flexible furlough works whether they're a director or not. Because if they're still only working part-time, you can claim part-time flexible furlough. However, what is going to be a problem is working out what their basic hours you would expect them to work. And we all know that directors probably don't work standard hours. So I think what you're going to have to do is find a way of justifying what percentage of their week they're working or what percentage they're failing. And you're going to have to be very, very careful that they're not working full time and claiming part-time furlough. It's going to be difficult, that one. It's all, I think, going to be to do with justification.
Suzanne, I think, is just saying, can you give her a copy of the spreadsheet? You're going to include the article. I'm
going to include that. I will get it out to you, and we'll get it up somewhere, maybe as an attachment somewhere in there. I'll look and see if we can. What I'd like to do is I'd like to actually get something that you can put figures in and it will calculate it for you. I'll have to speak to the powers that be that deal with our website on how to do that. I can do the spreadsheet. I'm not sure how to get it out there, but we'll certainly try and get something out for you.
And Ruth Bramley says, thanks for including that today and for your report. So that was Ruth you were talking about, obviously.
Yeah, that was. I didn't know whether she wanted to come forward on that. But yeah, Ruth, hopefully that answers your question. And I must have had a brainwave this morning and worked out how to do it. So, but you've got those figures in an email.
We had a question from Claire a minute ago. It seems to have disappeared for some reason. Claire, if you're there, can you resend your question, please? Sorry.
It might have gone into dismissed.
Has it gone into dismissed? Have you got that? Thank you. Pick it down.
Yeah, it's gone into dismissed.
It's all right, Claire. Don't worry, we've got it.
A potential new client says their accountant did not increase the national minimum wage on the 1st of April for furloughed staff, claiming it did not come into effect due to furlough. I understand that the national minimum wage applies for hours actually worked, so the employer does not have to top up to 100%, even though it means being paid less. What I think you can do is, if they're working, you have to pay the current rate, but if they're furloughed, you pay the old rate at 8% of the old rate for furlough. Now, I was talking to a member last week about this, and her client is prepared to pay, as they're now back at work, they're prepared to pay the increased national minimum wage, but calculate the furlough based on the old one. So they're actually basically topping their wages up. They're paying them the 80% for the furloughed bit, but at the new wage, and then claiming it back at 80% of the old wage. So that's something that they wanted to do for their staff. There's nothing to stop you doing that. It's a generous gesture on behalf of the employer. So, okay, Claire, hopefully that answers that one.
Gail, can workers on 0 hours contracts have flexi furlough pay if they will not be doing as many hours as they would have done normally?
This is going to be very difficult because I don't think HMRC have said very much about it. HMRC, with the best will in the world, are trying their hardest to get all this done, but there are an awful lot of decisions being made very quickly. And I have to say, 0 workers and how you deal with that under the new scheme is something I haven't read yet. Can workers on 0 hours contracts have flexi furloughable pay if they will not be doing as many hours as they would have done normally? My personal view on that is yes, because it's building up slowly, but most 0 workers are in, I think, are in the hospitality area or restaurants or that sort of thing. Gail, I'll have to look into that one and see if I can come back with an answer to that one.
And it will change from tomorrow, presumably, for a lot of them. You know, hopefully a lot of them.
Yes, but I think it's still not going to be the full work.
Jeff says, I have a client who has people on variable pay. I think the HMRC calculator for one of these was greater than it should be. I have claimed back what the HMRC calculator said. Should I go with what I worked out? Have you got a copy of the calculator?
I was going to say, if you've got a proof that you put it through the calculator, and I have to say, if you're using the calculator, make sure you try and get everything down, because it doesn't save it for very long, because I went off and did something, came back, and it had said that it had timed me out. So you need to try and do some sort of a screenshot if you want to do that as a proof of what HMRC have come up with. But certainly on the calculator, there were an awful lot of dates I had to put in. I had to do the start and end dates of the pay period, the last day they were paid, the next time they're being paid. I did mine on monthly. And I haven't worked it through yet on flexible. But what HMRC have said all along is that if you are giving them correct information, you can go with what the calculator gives you. That's all I can probably say on that one, I think.
Karen says, I have a client who has a full-time member of staff who has been on furlough. He is being brought into work on a part-time basis and furloughed the rest of the time. The client employer is then bringing in another person not on payroll to cover the furlough time at a lower rate of pay. Oh, that's not right. I don't.
No, that's not right. Because if the work is being done,
there's no need to furlough.
No, I mean, there's no furlough. If they've got someone, because if he has no work, if someone is covering the work and it is his job, he shouldn't be on furlough.
No, I mean, just to recap where furlough started with all of this, furlough was to enable employers who were having to lay off their staff because they hadn't got work for them, so that when furlough was stopped, the staff would still be there and they'd be able to kick off their business rapidly as soon as that happened. So yeah, this is completely against what furlough is all about.
Yeah, I think and that is that's the sort of thing, you see, at some stage, HMRC are going to go into all the RTI. So if you think about the logistics of that, you have all of your RTI information, which is based on, let's just say this is the only employee. That's the RTI information that's been going on. And HMRC will see that that individual is being paid and a furlough claim, but all of a sudden there is a new employee coming in on the payroll, which is going to go through the RTI. So at some stage, I think HMRC are going to pick that up.
The other problem I see on this is it says not on the payroll. So how are they being paid? Is this cash? Are they paying them on an invoice? In which case, is the person properly registered as self-employed? So there are more wrinkles to this one, I think.
I think that's
very careful.
That's very dodgy. As we can see, it is. But I think I don't know how you deal with that one as a bookkeeper, though, Karen.
Claire, are you not allowed to claim furlough at the rate of 872? Is it wrong to have done that for those people that have?
Well, I haven't read anywhere that the amount of furlough percentage has changed because they're still not working. And when they're on furlough and they're not working, I haven't seen anything that says that you can now follow them at the new rate. If anybody's seen that that's listening in, then please pop a note up. I haven't seen anything, so I'm still assuming that furlough pay is based on the old rate.
Paul Ingram, hi Paul. Sorry I missed the very beginning, but the sample was very useful to see. So hopefully having a sample in front of me will be useful if I can do this. So yeah,
get something up within the next few days for you.
Pay again says, just to let people know, repaying out holiday pay, I was advised by HR from a client that if employer tops up the 20% wage and 80% furlough, the holiday pay 20% is on top. It just makes up the 8%.
Yeah, it makes up the extra 20% because if you're, let's say, keep it simple, your weekly wage is £500. You can claim 80% of that back, which is 400, and you pay them the extra 100. So you top it up to their full wage that they would have got for holiday, but you claim back the 80% on the furlough. What happens with flexible? Oh, well, if it's flexible, it doesn't matter because you will count it as a whole week of furlough because then they're on holiday. God, this is getting so complicated.
Yeah, Faye says I use HMRC cows and got more than I worked out. I've done 2/5 a week, which is wrong. I printed HMRC calculations. Yeah, I think you need.
I think when we looked at this, first of all, when I said, you know, look at the percentage of works, they've actually taken it down to the actual number of hours now, on the hours that are actually worked. So
Jeff says I have a spreadsheet of everything I have done for the auditor to be checked if necessary.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good, Jeff. Well done.
Michelle Lightfoot, apologising for bringing you, for coming on again. Michelle?
Would it be possible to ask a question? Yes, Michelle, I'll come back to you on that one.
Paid. Sorry, no, 120% paid.
No. Well, I mean, that's very generous, but it shouldn't be.
So basically, they're 40%.
Yeah, the holiday pay is a basic week.
She's like a nice employer.
Yeah, I mean, great.
We've got one here on the chat. What have we got here? Harriet Belafonte, thanks for that explanation. I have a similar situation for a month where they were fully furloughed for part of the pay period, returned to work for 2 days, and then went onto flexible furlough. You have confirmed that my method of calculation is correct. Well, always good to have happy customers, Harriet. Thank you very much for that. Are you in relation to Harry? Such an unusual name, very nice name, but unusual name. So
before, I think.
Nothing to do with furloughing, of course, but always good to know.
Sorry, I didn't see that one. Where's that one? Yep.
It was on Facebook.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So yeah, just to explain for those who haven't heard this so many times before, we have some people who come on through my ICB, some people coming on through Facebook, and Facebook is running live, or it's actually it's about a minute behind, I think, for whatever reasons Facebook have. I think it's probably in case we do anything really naughty and they want to cut us off or something. But anyway, so that's on there. So we do get questions from there as well. Whilst we're sort of sitting thinking about things, just to mention, do not forget, please, on Monday, we have a big day for ICB TV. We have the Small Business Minister, Paul Scully, coming on. It's a live show, so he's going to be talking about what the government is doing, what it needs to do. I'm going to be talking to him very much about the important part that bookkeepers play in everybody coming out of furlough and coming out of lockdown. If you've got any questions, there will be live questions exactly the same as normal on the day, but if there's anything that you'd like me to put to him prior to opening up the questions, please let me know. Just send it to customer service. They'll pass that through to me. We've got quite a few people booked in for that already on Monday, so please get yourself booked in. I've not spoken to this particular minister before. The last Minister for Small Business is no longer the Minister for Small Business, so this is a first for me, but very pleased that he's coming on. He'll be with us for the hour on Friday, on Monday, so that'll be good. Tuesday, then, we've got a webinar from Receipt Bank, which is all about pricing. I know that's something very keen to your heart. And also on Tuesday, we've got the next Gloucester branch meeting. So please don't forget that. That's got a big number booked in for that already, but there is space. Wednesday, I've got something coming up. I can't tell you about that too much at the moment because I haven't quite finalised my guest. The original guest has now decided he is not available, but I have an even better guest for you, but I'll talk to you about that shortly. Thursday, we have Practical Ignition, talking about winning new clients and talking about international business as well, so that'll be interesting. And they have a special offer for members, just for ICB. And it's also the next Lincolnshire branch meeting. So I know Lincolnshire is proving particularly popular at the moment. That east side of the country seems to be doing particularly well at the moment, which is great. And because I know Kirsty does very well with her meeting over there as well, so that's fantastic. Then, believe it or not, by then it's back down to Thank Furlough It's Friday, and Jackie and I again Jackie answering your questions, me pointing them out to her, which is our normal format, and she knows more than I do, and so it'll move around very quickly. I think we have
one more question, new question in. Anonymous, hi. If an employee takes a week's holiday while furloughed, can the employer still claim the 80% furlough pay back? Yes, they can. That's definite. That's been in there from fairly early on. So yeah, you can claim the 80% back if you've had them on holiday, which is good.
So anything much happened with your various groups?
We had a meeting, I had a very select meeting of members who are involved in businesses that hold clients' funds. And I found that very helpful yesterday, and we will be following up on that. If anybody is listening who is involved with any clients who hold client funds, I'd be interested in hearing from you. The sort of things that came up with the sort of client base it was, which actually was more than I thought it was going to be. We've got the sort of businesses, solicitors, because they're obviously the conveyancing side of it, estate agents who may be holding deposits and things, insurance brokers, so anybody who's dealing with insurance, and the one that was completely new to me that I didn't think at all about, and one of our members has got a client in that, is an immigration lawyer who actually takes application forms from people who are looking to come into the country, and it's application forms for visas and application amounts for visas, and then it's all passed on to HMRC. So we had a lovely discussion, and I've got a few more people to speak to about that, and then we will be looking at what we feel that members might need to understand if you're going to take on a client, and then looking at some quite specialist training in certain areas that I was absolutely staggered at the variety of work that our members are doing. And
we've had a big query on that recently, actually, because one of our members has a client who is a probate person. They've got no legal background, from what I can gather, or accounting. They've bought an off-the-peg course and got some sort of certificate which says they are now a probate specialist, and they've been holding on to money. And actually, the reason that it came up was they haven't been holding on to it properly. So it does happen.
I mean, one of the things that we spent quite a lot of time talking about yesterday was there are two issues here. One is how do you process the bookkeeping for all these in and outs of a client fund and office funds and transferring funds, and what happens to the fees and disbursements and all things like that. So there's the bookkeeping side of it. But what came across was how much should our members know about the legal background to this, so that they can keep an eye that everything is actually being done properly. And that's something that we'll be following up, and how much knowledge should our members have of the legal background to all of this. For example, I know because when I was practicing, I had an insurance broker myself, and every 6 months you have to do a report to the FCA on exactly the business that you've been dealing with, and they check on that every 6 months. So it's a question of whether we should be getting involved in things like that or not. So a lot of interesting things going on. Watch this space on that one.
Yeah, we've had a lot of queries on this over the years. You know, what happens to the interest? That being the main one, which I know there isn't much interest from a bank account nowadays, but even small amounts, who do they go back? You know, who do they go to?
There is a de minimis limit, which I think is something, if I remember, it used to be, it may have changed to £250, or there has to be a decision taken about the de minimis that you pay across. And that will probably only kick into place if you've got something like a conveyancing solicitor who is sitting with this huge amount of money in their account for clients, and there is a delay in completions, and the money is there and it's earning interest. Whether we get up to that with the level of interest that's being paid at the moment, which is dropping down and down and down.
£250 on 1,000 clients is not to be sniffed at.
That's not to be sniffed at, no. More questions. Faye's come back. I found out today from phoning HMRC, got through very fast. Well done, Faye. That if you underclaim furlough, you can phone them and they can amend the previous claim. Yeah. With your changes to the claims, if you have, when you make your furlough claim, there is now a button at some place in that process. There is a button that says, have you overclaimed? And if the answer to that is yes, and you want to almost pay it back, then it takes you through the process of either reducing future claims, or if it's the last claim you're making and you're not going to pay them back, how you're going to pay back HMRC. But you can't claim for an underclaim without ringing them to tell them why. But hopefully Faye's done that and been successful. We were talking about the underclaim there and how that could crop up. I mean, in the early days, for example, if somebody was on holiday, we weren't sure whether you could claim furlough for holiday pay. we now know that you can. So there are all sorts of reasons why people may have underclaimed. Don't forget though that if the over or underclaim is minimal, HMRC do not necessarily need you to pay the money back. It's only
not quantified, presumably.
Sorry?
What do they mean by minimum? That minimal, that probably hasn't been quantified.
No, they haven't quantified it, but basically if you can justify what you claimed and your calculations are correct and it's not out of the ballpark, then they'll hopefully let it go through. I mean, to be honest, they're going to have enough problems with dealing with the with businesses who are definitely using the CJRS system as a way of defrauding HMRC out of an awful lot of money. And I think I said last week, they've got, according to Jim Harrow, when he was answering questions to the Treasury Select Committee, they've got about 800 cases at the moment that they've got to investigate when they get the legislation. And it's things like businesses who have claimed the furlough, but then are insisting that their employees actually work.
Yeah.
And those are the sort of things they're going to clamp down on. So where members have been working out the CJRS and they've got their justifications for their figures, which you have to keep for 6 years, and I don't know if it's 100 or a couple of £100 or £500 across the whole period, they're not going to bother about that because it's going to cost them more to reclaim it than it is to get the money in. But they're talking about the large fraudulent claims, so not too
But
much.
we have been told that if your furlough is done by an external advisor, so presumably that's an accountant or a bookkeeper, that they will be expected to have done it correctly. We're supposed to know better, so
Yeah.
Please don't start letting your clients all get away with 500 quid just because Jackie Mount says so, because I won't want her towed away.
It's a figure I pulled out. Yes, sorry about that. I should be careful. Alison's come back saying she works for a solicitor's practice and deals with wills and probate, so there's a large amount of client money held. Alison, could I ask you to email in to me through Member Services, please? And we'll have a chat with you about whether you want to come on the list and anybody else. So anybody else who's dealing with anything like that, do contact us by email, memberservices@bookkeepers.org.uk. Please mark it for my attention. And I have to say, to come on the focus groups, it does have to go through the professional standards route first to make sure you are a member of good standing, Gary?
A member of good standing, that's the nice phrase, yes.
And once I've got the okay to contact you, I will be back in touch, but that will not take any time at all.
Whilst we're talking about of good standing, I am very disappointed to say I've just had a note through from Harriet Belafonte to say it's a made-up name. So it's that we don't know who he or she or it is.
Okay, yes.
Sorry about that. You know.
Okay.
I had an article there thinking we were going to have the long lost grand something or other of Harry Belafonte. Never mind.
Kirsty's come back. Hi, Kirsty. Agree with Faye. Had to ring to adjust prior claims for underpayment. A very helpful HMRC lady. Jeff, do you know if HMRC are going to check every claim made? No, I don't know, but I don't think so. They've not got the person power to do that. I think what will happen,
understand they have a very clever computer that is looking for red rags.
There are red flags in the system. So if you're putting something through that looks as though it's within reasonable bounds, then it's not going to bother about it. So basically, you have to be a bona fide business with a payroll. You have to have met all the original criteria for having people on your payroll by the 19th of March, whatever, made an RTI, everything else. With the flexible furlough, don't forget that if you cannot claim for more individuals than you've ever claimed at one stage before. So if in a previous claim, you've claimed for, say, 10 members of staff, and all of a sudden you've got people and you're claiming for 12 members of staff, they are going to turn it down. Now, we've hit a problem with our early years group, as I suspected we would, because of the way the furlough is calculated on the percentage of the grants and what's going to happen over the summer holidays. So if anybody is on the line that's involved in early years that isn't already on the group that might like to contribute towards that discussion, please again let us know, because we're trying to get our heads around this and it's not proving easy. I think if of all the queries I've had, early years is by far the most complex. we will try and set up another meeting in the next week or so for the group. So I think we need to get together and talk about. Jess come back and said you can do it in good faith and make genuine mistakes. If it's a genuine mistake and you know it's a mistake, then they will expect you to correct it. What they've said is that if you are calculating your furlough claim in one method, and then you use the HMRC calculation and it's coming out at a different figure, they will accept either, providing you can justify it. Genuine mistakes should be corrected either through the paying it back through the button or ringing them if you think you've underclaimed. So yeah, it's Faye's got early years. Yeah, Faye, I've got you on my group, haven't I, Faye? If not, I'll add you on. I think Faye is on my list already.
Considering how much work HMRC have obviously got, which is above and beyond, they do seem still to be pushing out certain boats at the moment. And one of them, I mean, the group that you're on, the Tax Agent Strategy Group, or whatever it is now called, we now know that every time somebody registers to be a tax agent, they're asked who their professional body are. And we are now on a sort of daily basis exchanging information. And we are not allowed to say that somebody is a member of good standing if they are in arrears by even 24 hours. It's now something they ask. So just those of you who like to let your subscriptions slip over the end of the month, I'm afraid we can't lie on your behalf. Oh, well, don't worry, they always pay fifth or something or other. I mean, we can't do that anymore.
It's interesting actually with HMRC because I was talking to someone this week about applying to add a particular something onto their agent group. So they've got PAYE and they want to add self-assessment on. We were talking about how to do that. And once you're starting to apply for for example, for a SAT agent number, you have to do that, and that's still got to be done in writing. I'm actually got a meeting coming up with HMRC in the next 2 weeks to look at exactly this point and how all the professional bodies think it should be regulated as to who becomes a tax agent, because there's a big question about those who are regulated under AML by HMRC themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that our members have been complaining about for a long time, that there are unqualified people competing with them out on the streets, and we've said, right, government we'll push government for it. So we've been pushing government for it. So we can't really now complain if government is starting to ask questions and being a bit careful about who they allow to become agents. Yeah. I mean, we have got what we were wishing for some years ago. Yeah. And I think generally the whole way that HMRC and Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, are looking at this, it is that they really do want qualified, competent people to be in these important roles. It's silly not to have the best people available to you. And so, yeah, it's obviously the right thing to do as far as I can see.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think obviously all of the professional bodies want this to happen. They want all tax agents to be members of a professional body. But there are professional bodies and there are professional bodies.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Basically, we'll see. It's the start of a long journey on that one, I think.
A professional body now, in terms of the law, is a body that is mentioned under Schedule 1 of the Anti-Money Laundering Regulations. And there is a list of them. If people are not on that list, the government doesn't require, recognise them as a professional body. They can be a body, they can be an association, but they're not professional unless they're on that list. And Harriet Belafonte has come back on to say, I've already asked to join the early years group, but have not been invited to a meeting yet. And then admits, my name is Nadine Harrison. Nothing wrong with Nadine Harrison. I like that name. Have you got Nadine on your list?
It may very well be that is in the system. I will follow up on that one, as there are some people that I know are still, that I haven't had approved for my tick list yet. So I will need to look into that. And my apologies, I don't know why you haven't been contacted.
No, you're right.
I'm just looking back now.
have you, where are we with this? No, there's an accounting web. Karen says there is an accounting web webinar next week. The problem with unqualified accountants. Yeah, we know about that all too well. In fact, I think last year our members, I think it was 5 of our members found out that they were dealing with a firm of so-called chartered accountants. What they didn't realise was that they weren't. So it should have been done as part of the due diligence. But yeah, I'm afraid just because people say they are, it doesn't mean they are. Faye says I've got early years.
Yeah, I've got Faye's on my list.
Yeah.
Michelle, yeah, send me an email. You've got my address, and I'll look at getting you onto that. And anyone else.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'll do that,
We
Michelle.
really do appreciate your help on these. We've got lots of panels and things that we're bringing up. We do need to keep in touch with you, the members. And I know you're busy, particularly busy at the moment with your furloughing. And now as your clients come out of lockdown, I know it's going to be doubly difficult to try and keep them on an even keel, making sure that they've got businesses and therefore you've got your clients. But, you know, if any of you just can spare your time, if called upon, just to give us that little bit of extra input of real life bookkeeper situation, it really does help keep us real. And that means that anything we do reflects the real world out there, because Jacquie still does a bit, but Jacquie, you've had a practice for many, many years, but it's surprising how life changes in a couple of months.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So everybody likes to try and keep their hand in.
Yeah.
And so just again to let you know, ICB at the moment is still completely open for business, has been throughout and intends to do so. I think we are, I'm not sure if we're the only, but we're nearly the only, if not the only of the Schedule 1 professional bodies not to be furloughing people. And we are all working from our respective homes, everywhere from Wigan, Blackpool, right the way down to Hook, obviously around the London area, etc. People have gone home and gone home to families or whatever it is. So our telephone number, normal telephone number, does get you through. All of our services that were available are available. We've even got, instead of centre-based exams now, we've got proctored exams, and our M8's going down really, really well at the moment. You have to sit there with your laptop and your telephone, and we watch you for the entire 2 hours that you're doing your exam. But, you know, if you need your exam, that's the way to go. And the numbers at the moment are quite substantially up on last year, 200–300% over last year, which is fantastic. Because I think now people are realising that actually I do want to get that next level of exam. I do want to get that next level of membership because I can do so much more for my clients. And clients have been very needy at the moment. Now, unfortunately, I've been through a couple of recessions in the past, but the good news is that normally in a recession, bookkeepers are in huge demand. Your information, your help, your guidance is in big demand. But clients will ask you to do absolutely everything for them. So you need to be geared up and ready to go with that, which is pretty important, I think. So anything that you need to do, let us know. You can buy a book from us. You can, if you've got somebody that can teach you yourself, you can still sit our exams, just register and do that. You can get mock papers. Try mock paper first. See if that, see how close you are to being ready. That's fine. And you know, we do a lot of mock papers for our members. They're all automatically generated. They're online. You just have to have a couple of hours where you can lock yourself away from all of the distractions and sit down and do that. So I think that's one to remember. And yeah, I think other than that, we are finding that the businesses, well, I was going to say business as usual, but actually for most people, business is better at the moment. You're getting far more clients. And I was speaking to, I think it was when I was speaking to Kirsty St. John, sorry to mention her again, but this week she said she just picked up somebody who wanted her to do just payroll, and they bought themselves a software system and really got bored with it after the first couple of months. So again, wanted to farm that out. So that's a lot of business coming our way because of that. So there is definitely a lot going on, and I'm hoping some of you will give me some questions about what's going on in the future to put to the minister. Otherwise, you'll get all my questions, and you might like a break and get some of yours. Any more questions, Garry?
No, but just to, Nadine, if you're still there, I apologise. I have you on my list as a ticked off member, but I had you on my employed members list, not the early years, so I can move you straight across onto that one because you have already been ticked off for that one. So I will be in touch. Okay.
Just to mention, we had a Warwickshire branch meeting this morning. We tend to have meetings at our ICB in the afternoon, TV in the afternoon. We always miss the morning meeting. So, well, there we were. We had the meeting this morning, and Jacquie Corral is the joint chair there. I know she was there, and about this, I think this is 28 other people were there. So it's a good turnout. You know, that's very good. Now, don't forget, any of, if you want to go to a branch meeting, just go onto the My ICB section of the website. Log on and just have a look at the huge number of branch meetings that are available to you at the moment, because the numbers are going through the roof. But of course, the good thing about Zoom is they can go through the roof. It just keeps going, and we just get you on there. And people are saying that, look, I've never been able to get to a meeting before, or I've been too nervous to go to a meeting, or they're always at night, they're always 25 miles down the road, and I don't like going out. We've had a couple of people saying I'm disabled, and this has been the first time I've been able to come out to a meeting. So anybody and everybody, you know, you really should take notice of what's going on in your local area. This is national, obviously, ICB TV, and we talk national topics. If you go to your local branch meeting, and you've got people who are your neighbours, perhaps not next neighbours, but they are close to you. They can be talking to you about what's going on in Nottingham or what's going on in Peterborough or whatever it might be, and you'll feel some empathy there. And this whole network of bookkeepers that we have spread across the country now is really pulling together, and I think people are really deriving major benefit from it. So everything is here for you, everything is waiting for you, and it doesn't cost you a penny. So that's got to be good as well. Except you have to provide your own drink and snacks.
Talking about branch meetings, Joanne has asked that there doesn't seem to be any branch meeting for the Northwest area for some time now. Will these be reinstated? I'd love to be in touch with Northwest ICB bookkeepers.
Joanne, I haven't seen that. Is it just Joanne? Do we know who?
Joanne Crompton, yeah.
Joanne Crompton. Yes, Joanne. We are organising meetings in the Northwest for it's the end of next week and the beginning of the following week. We're just trying to put times together at the moment. So we're going to do an open meeting for everybody in the area. I mean, really, we've always had, you know, pretty good branches in Lancashire, and then our chair there was taken ill. We had Cumbria, and our chair there went off and got rather busy, and obviously then Cheshire. So those three counties at the moment are open, but we are going to be running meetings there again in the hope that one of you in those areas will pick up the mantle and act as our chair. It's very important that we get to that. We've actually got about 12 or 13 counties that we're not currently running branch meetings in, and we'll be running those as a head office push, if you like, at the moment, so that before the end of July, every county should have had a meeting, and hopefully most of those people who think, oh, this is great, I'd like to do more of this, and particularly as you don't have to do very much about it now other than go on to Zoom, and we're hoping that they'll become permanent things. And just to give you another heads up, something else that we're bringing in, as from the 1st of August, we'll actually have a new team member who will be dealing with all new practices. We're not quite sure what we're going to call him yet, our welcome person, our onboarder. So all new practice members will actually get a sort of week of this person's time, some mentoring, some hand-holding, just to get things off the ground. And we're also looking at other ways of supporting you as you go down your road to becoming the mega bookkeeper, which so many of you have become. So that should be good. It's another tick in our box, hopefully, from yourselves. And I'll keep you very much in touch with that, and I will introduce you to our new head of welcome, or whatever we call him, in due course. We've got another one on there.
Joanne says, I'm from Lancashire, so that's super. Thank you very much.
Great. Harry, says I did also ask to be on the employed members group. Is that
Yeah,
one you've done?
I've got that. I haven't contacted, I've only had 2 of you for employed, and we will come back to you on that at a later stage, but I certainly will contact you. No
we were contacted last week by one of our members who is employed. She actually works for a very large plumbing company, and she's given up her practice, gone back into employment. She said, now I'm here, she said, can I still get registered and provide you with a DBS? And I said, yeah, of course you can, because it is something we're looking at for employed members. Because she said the first thing that happened when I came in here was my client said, have you got any past convictions? Have you got a DBS? And she said I was able to show them the one that I had for ICB, and it's over a year old now, so it was out of date, but they were happy with that. But she said I think it's wise that all employed bookkeepers should be able to give their employers the same guarantees that a client gets. So absolutely, and it is something we're looking at. In fact, it's something which I think the profession is moving towards. So we will be looking at that. And one of the other areas that we're looking at, just to keep you totally in the loop, is when people join as students. Because students want to know that when they get to the end of their qualifications, they're allowed to come into membership. And some of them, if they've got unspent convictions or something like that, we're having to turn away. And so we might be doing a little bit more of that at the front end, so that we don't get people in, and then unfortunately we can't offer them membership when they come out at the end of that. But I've always got the fun stuff to talk about, haven't I, Jackie? I'm sure they come on to see you. They don't really want to hear from you. No. So it's one of those things. It's part of being a professional. It's part of what we do, and I'm always telling everybody what wonderful members you are. So it's nice to know that you're all working with us and helping us and assisting us. Yeah. And as I should be telling the minister on Monday. Are we about done on questions, Jackie? We've come to
we haven't got any more. I think they're all done. Unless there's anything on Facebook. Ken's come in on the Facebook. I love the new practice onboarder idea.
Right.
And Harriet Nadine has said, great, I can't wait to take advantage of that new service when I apply for my practice license later this year.
Great. Yeah, we've always had people who ring up and say hello, but this is a dedicated person who is going to give you sort of what you need to do in practice, how you get started, all of the things that you need to do. And, because if you get things right at the beginning, we're finding that it filters its way through then. So, yeah, he's going to be coming on board. He's a great guy. He's an absolute scream. You will love him, and, so that's it. So, Jackie, I was just going
to add on to that. I remember back in the very early days of ICB, I used to spend an awful lot of time myself sort of talking to new members about setting up their practice and actually how to deal with the first client. So it's great that, it's interesting that those views, those needs are still there, and that we've got someone to deal with it, which is fabulous.
Yeah, I think the thing was the number of people that are in practice have sort of taken over a little bit, and they're taking up so much of our time, but we've decided that there is a need out there, so we're going to, as I say, push the boat out, and we're going to get the guy in. I think, I'm not sure if he's told his employers yet, so I can't tell you, but he joins on the 1st of August, or I think, is it Monday the 2nd or 3rd of August, something like that. And so he's going to be hitting the ground running. He's done this sort of stuff before. He's been involved with the industry. He's a qualified bookkeeper. So yeah, he's going to have various insights to give you, but the main thing is it's the encouragement side of things, and it's the, you passed your exams, all of a sudden ICB's throwing you out of the nest to fly, and he's going to be there to try and sort of cushion the fall a little bit and make it better for you. And we're working on a program, and I think it's going to be a major step forward for us. And yeah, Jackie, there are a few things we used to do in the old days because we had the spare time that we don't do now.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I still get, it's interesting because I still take technical queries, but they're getting far more complex than they ever used to years ago. I get some real humdingers that you put forward through me that really sort of test my the odd brain cell every now and then. But yeah, it's good. That's good.
Well, I mean, the thing is that in the old days, I remember getting lots of questions at branch meetings and various other things, and being quite happy that I could answer most of them. But nowadays, our bookkeepers are getting very sophisticated.
Very.
I mean, you know, they argue their corner and
Yeah,
they come up with...
absolutely.
It's like a foreign language at times,
Yeah,
and I'm thinking,
yeah.
oh, just look at what they're doing, you know.
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
far more complex than it ever used to be years ago, and I think it's fabulous, and they're very knowledgeable, and I'm always willing to learn something, which is why I found these focus groups so useful, because, you know, you're coming up with things that I wasn't even aware of, so that's fabulous. I can put things in place for you, but I need to know what you need for us to put in place, so that's good. So just a quick one from me then. I will get an article up about calculating flexible furlough this week. It'll be my technical update article this month. I will look at getting, I'll do some work on that spreadsheet and see if we can get something up for you so that you can put some fixed figures in and it'll automatically calculate it for you. So I'll work on that and we'll see if we can get that up for you next week.
And just to say, the government has today listed its countries that are quarantine free and which you can now visit. So those of you who have got a bit of time and have decided that the sun is calling you, there are countries you can now go to. That comes from the 10th of July. So what's that, next week, isn't it? Mm. I'm hoping there are some of you left, and also you take advantage of this wonderful countryside that we have in this country, because I must admit I've been doing a bit of that up until lockdown. I was, my wife and I, June, we made a special effort to go to more English places, and there's some wonderful countryside about, and those people are going to need your tourist pound, whether it's buying an ice cream or a Kiss Me Quick hat or whatever it might be. Let's get out there and do that. And we will be talking to you over the next 2 to 3 weeks, which not only the business minister obviously coming on Monday, but beyond that, we're going to have all sorts of advice for you on working with small businesses, how to encourage them back into full-time employment with everybody. And so our message is always supportive. It will change, obviously, as we work through those weeks, but we're looking forward to talking to you. Jackie, as always, it was great to have you with us here on Friday, and we thank Furlough that you're with us. That's fantastic.
Lovely.
Goodbye, everybody. We will see you next week. Have a lovely weekend. Be very careful. Don't drink too much. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.